listeners. Hope you and your loved ones are safe. Welcome to a new episode of TKI Talks. This podcast is from the Road Track Club of Loyola ECAM College of Engineering and Technology. This episode is about entrepreneurship. Myself, Nitishri, and my co host Shankar are here in a conversation with Mr. Venkatesh Sai.
Our guest today is the founder of Zupa Zero Navigation Technology Private Limited. Sir is our college alumni from the batch 2016. He is a specialist in software languages and embedded systems, and it is a pleasure to have you with us, sir. Thank you for taking the time to be in this conversation today.
Sure, sure.
Sir, can you tell us more about your company and what actually inspired you to start this?
Hmm. So basically, uh, Zupa Geonavigation Technologies as a company started way back, when I was in 12th standard, and just getting into first year of college. So the company started with the aspect that there are a lot of, especially a lot of pressing issues which were there in the electronics and software domain, and I had a lot of connections with people in the industry. So they came to me initially with problems, saying that why don't you solve this, why don't you solve that, why don't you do this project for us. So this is when I was way back in first year itself. So I said, why not make it official? um, Obviously, before you start a company, it's quite a bit of a responsibility, because number one is that, okay, one, when the company has only one person, as normally companies have when they start up, it's pretty okay. But the moment you start getting employees, designers, software developers, and all these things, the responsibility adds, because you have to understand, there's a ecosystem of people who are dependent upon what you can do, what is your performance. So it started off primarily with the idea of uh, me actually wanting to. I saw that way back in 2012 to 13 itself, that there's a pretty much of a there's a large gap in the industry, especially in latest in terms of embedded AI, computing at the edge. These are just concepts which were coming up back then. Additionally, another very interesting field at that time which was developing also was the drones, and unmanned aerial vehicles is what they were called that time. So I felt that it would be a lot better if I could actually, instead of jumping into the regular thing of getting a degree, then going for employment and gaining experience, then starting the company. So since I was already getting experience, I was already, people were asking me to do various projects in the industry. So I said, okay, I'll start off the company. It'll also benefit people who work with me. It would increase my own knowledge base. And so that's how Zupa Geonavigation Technology started up. And of course, way back in 2014 itself, for control system, I had applied for an international patent, and today I have an international patent for disseminated parallel control computing for real-time environments. Then apart from that, a lot of our technologies were also recognized by Department of Science and Technology, DST, and we also were able to successfully raise funding, as well as grants from Department of Science and Technology for various defense and civilian applications. Um, Going forward, we got also into, so as a company today, we primarily are in the automobile and IoT space, in what you would call as telematics, and we are in the drone and defense, I mean defense and aerospace segment also, where we have certain proprietary technologies and products which we sell. uh, so that's how the company as such started, with just the idea of saying that, okay, if people are anyway coming, and I'm doing it not a very professional manner, just doing it like a project, and trying to help out somebody in the industry. I thought, if one or two people require my help and services, I'm sure there would be quite a few if I started a company. So that's how the idea started. And of course, all of us have that one aspiration that you'd like to be our own boss at some point of time. So I said, okay, let me try that early on itself. And of course, family has been a great help. In between, the family was a big support in addressing that. Yeah.
Just wow, sir. Like when you started it when you were in 12th, like right out of your 12th grade, that is just amazing. Hearing that itself is a bit inspirational to all of us. I mean, the thing that I want to know is when people approached you with problems when you were just coming out of 12th, did you already have prior knowledge on drones, embedded systems, and software languages, or how did it happen? Like from start, were you passionate about this, like from very small age, that you developed that skill of solving problems, or after 12th, did you do something to enrich that skill?
So let me just tell you, like for example, now any problem as such has a very a kind of a basic solution. Obviously, the implementation always, there could be different ways in which you can implement and solve a problem, but every problem in its essence can be solved in a very basic and simplistic manner. Like for example, now today, the entire thing of coding, you would have seen, everyone is like the future of our entire industry is going to be in
Yeah.
software, in coding, in this, that. So as I always also tell my employees, new employees in our orientation sessions, that see, for a electrician, a screwdriver, a flat screwdriver is a tool. For a plumber, it's a spanner, and for a automobile electrician, it's a tester. Similarly, for embedded developer, it's coding. So it's just a means to an end. See, always a solution to any problem always exists. Yeah, so I was pretty good at problem solving, and obviously, a part of it also is that I started coding when I was in seventh standard itself, and I started out with Java. Uh,
Wow. Seventh
so
standard itself, sir.
yeah, so it
Okay.
started, just out of interest. So it was not in the syllabus or something. We started, computer science. You take it only in like after 10th or 11th. So I started just out of my interest. uh, yeah, so as such, people initially started coming to me for the methodology in which I was able to solve problems. So initially, way back in 2012 13, when we were working with National Aerospace Laboratories, DRDO, uh, so they came to us saying that, see, there are certain problems that they put forth to us, especially in control mechanics, kinematics, and these type of aspects, and said, as of today, there is nobody who's working on this in India. And that was the IT boom time. So people were only focused on software and this thing. So nobody was actually uh, trying to focus on complex electronics, embedded softwares, these type of things. So they said, you try your hand at it. You have a good problem solving capability. See what is the solution that you can come up with. So what was the initial thing was that they wanted AD wanted a basic, what we call as a IMU, or initial measurement unit. Today it's become very common in your smartphone, where you rotate your smartphone and the screen changes, right? So at that time, in 2012 13, there was nobody who was doing this, nobody was giving these solutions. So we had made such solutions, started giving it. And as time progressed, we were able to solve more and more complex problems. And yes, our customer base increased, the number of products, the number of deliverables. So that's what I was trying to say. The concept starts with your ability to solve a problem, irrespective of what is the tool you use. So it could be software, it could be hardware. At the end of the day, the solution to the problem and the ability for you to logically have a problem solving ability, that is the main thing.
I mean, like you started in like 12th standard itself. So, did you have any some sort of a partner, or did you come up with this alone?
Partner per se is my father. So he handled initially and even till today to an extent the business aspect. So he's basically, he has over 40 years of experience. He went into retirement. I dragged him out of retirement, saying that I'm going to run this company. I need your help. So he said, sure, okay, I'll take care of the business aspects, the finance, and those type of things. You make sure that you can deliver on the technology front, and the orders keep coming. yes, the business aspect is important, and that is what actually keeps the wheels turning and the company growing also. So yes, as I had said before, family being a great help. Yes, my father, I started it off along with my father, and he helped me out quite a bit in the financial aspects and other.
Yes, so when it comes to business and any life decision, I think family is one of the greatest support that we can get. And it is nice to know that you got it from yours as well. So I just want to know, can you highlight some struggles that you went through when you started this, when right after your 12th? What was your struggle like? Did you have struggle balancing college and business, or was it struggles in financing the company, or just taking it to the next step?
Yeah. So uh, first is it is if you do plan on getting into business, you'll have to understand that there are a lot of sacrifices and a lot of problems which come up. But yes, yes, there were initially problems. Obviously, our college was a great support, and Dr. Caleb was Caleb Raj was very great support in helping me out on that front. So I did not face much of an issue there. But yes, in terms of the other aspects, yeah, finance is one thing that always drags you down, especially when you say that you're in the technology space. So one of the things that I have been able to learn over time is that yes, there is one aspect that you need to focus on the content of the work that you're doing, and that is what actually keeps the focus of the founder and the focus of the team towards the future, because we are living in a very fast paced generation. Things get obsolete within six to you have new smartphones which come out every 6 months, and processors which come out every year. So things are so always the focus of a entrepreneur is to keep ahead of times, but at the same time you need to be anchored down to the present to understand that these are the the monthly requirements. This is your monthly funding ability. This how much you need, how much finance you need on a quarterly basis, and then you need to backwork your sales projection, your and accountability. So as long as you have systems and a focus in place, many of the challenges of entrepreneurship, especially when it comes to finance, when it comes to focus, can be addressed. But as usual, it is I'm not downplaying it. It is quite challenging. So what I have come to learn from this entire experience is that you need to have certain technologies, certain products, especially when you're a technology entrepreneur, which are focused on which are ahead of its time, all right, but they have current market abilities. You can sell them, you can market such products, and of course you have the high tech cutting edge stuff that you continue to develop with, because that's what keeps the focus of the organization towards something larger than what it is today. um, so in terms of challenges, if I want to sum it up, see, in the education aspect, yes, balancing college life was a little complex, because I couldn't go to people's birthday parties. I didn't have time for any of that, and especially when you start off a little earlier, like what I did in terms of business and other aspects, a large part of your life also gets consumed into the business. So business becomes, it's not like you have a personal life and a professional life. Your professional life becomes 24/7 uh, because you are running the company. um, so that is one aspect. Yes, uh, college did help me, Lisette, hats off, they helped me quite a bit in adjusting to this requirement of mine. Very, it was very fortunate for me to find a college like that. Secondly, in terms of finance, yes, finance is a critical aspect which one has to understand. And if you ask me what I would have done differently before, maybe I would have I would have I would have I would have myself worked at least a year somewhere else so that I would have understood finance a little better and then gone into entrepreneurship. So that's another challenge, staying ahead of times and which thinking forward and thinking in areas where maybe not even other people might have thought, solutions or products or requirements which would have come up, which might come up in 2 or 3 years time, is something that you need to start planning from today. So there are, two or three challenges, but as long as you are very committed to the company, to what you stand for, to the ideology of what you want to achieve, the challenges can, I've seen can be overcome without any, with less effort. Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. Because you just highlighted the most important thing that we as students know is that thinking long term, like thinking ahead of everyone to stay ahead in the business, to stay ahead in the competition. That's really nice. So,
You started as a one person, and then how did
Yeah.
you expand your business, sir?
See, one of the key things, always people do assume that there are two ways in which you can build an organization. Uh, See, one is that you basically obviously get a lot of funding and you first employ people before you have an idea or a concept or a product. And many people assume that that is what is a startup and that is what is entrepreneurship. But actually how it works is that how I've seen it work. I'm not saying it's a general rule or something. It's what I have seen from my experience is that you need to start off with something that is where you yourself are involved in uh, getting a project or completing the entire cycle from so I have done entire cycles from raising a purchase invoice to executing the project with coding and other things and delivering it. So the entire cycle I've seen, I've handled, I have done also sales and marketing myself. So once you gain that kind of experience, till then you keep your company light, till you have those one or two, startling products, star products, which you can sell, which can sell in numbers, or you have actual month on month, stable orders which are coming in terms of projects or in terms of product revenue. But basically, you continuously have business. um, Now that's a good indicator that your business is starting to succeed, and obviously the client or the customer is also able to see value in what you're doing, and hence is purchasing or whatever from you. So that's the basic thing. I initially started off with the ideology that I need to see the entire sales cycle, get projects on my own, get revenues into the company, and once I have a certain excess, I think I can also afford to hire support stuff. So it started off with one or two projects, and we got payments for those, and those same customers, since like one of the customers, early on customers were Mahindra and Mahindra MRV, for one of their autonomous vehicle projects. They were using one of our IMU INS systems. So once they initially started using our system, then they had recommended it to two, three other divisions of their own company and research. So then from one project, we got three more projects from them. So the moment volume starts building, obviously, if you slack that time, if you say no, I will execute everything on my own, then you will not meet the delivery commitments, the timelines, and of course, customer will go away. So that's the kind of point that's the time that I realized that yeah, I need to now start hiring people if we need to start taking on bigger orders. And of course, it went, we hired first two three developers, then one or two hardware developers, software developers, PCB designers, and slowly we built up the setup. Today we have close to about 55 people in our company, and close to about 15 of them are in core R&D, and they have close to cumulative experience of over 30 years in um, PCB design, embedded design, software design. We have our own software team, app developers. So we have the whole range. Um, Now these, so as I said, it always starts with that one idea. You should always start, as in from my perspective at least, is that you do not look at what you say, the um, kind of charisma of making a startup where you have 100 people, because if you do not have orders or you do not have any customers, then ultimately you're going to lose money and your startup might close. I took up the approach where I said we'll first get orders, and now I would have you know excessive after accounting for a cost and rent and everything, we would have some amount of funds left. From that, we will decide on a month on month basis how many people we need to employ. So I grew it in a kind of an organic method, and obviously, that's how it grew. But yeah, so the key thing is always, again, as I said, it's a single minded focus on the business, and it's the fact that you have to always look out for what is good for the company over your own individual aspirations or aspiration of anybody else within your company. So that's the key thing that will drive you to make a lot of these kind of decisions. That's how we started off. We started off with in a small way, got a few orders, then got people to serve those orders, then we got more projects, then more products. We started producing products, we started manufacturing products, and as time went, as our sales numbers increased, the revenue increased, we hired more people. So that's how it worked.
I mean, sir, just the more we get into conversation, the more we're all in awe of you. Like, you started as a single man army, and then now you have 55 people you're working with. And the important aspect that you highlighted was that first let me do it, and then if I'll do proper planning, and if after all the expenses I have some excess amount, then I will actually start thinking about hiring people and delegating work to. That's some quite a good takeaway from this. And one more thing is, like you said, like you said, you have 55 people with you working with you. How are you running your company at times like this pandemic, per se?
Yeah, so actually the irony is that I have just got out of COVID about close to a week back or so. So yeah, it is challenging, um, especially for a company like us where a decent part of our work, since we are in the embedded software space, uh, a lot of work involves physical products, and necessarily work from home doesn't work all the time. um, so again, the entire fundamental idea, as I said, is to understand what is good for the company, and what is it that the company needs to be grow in even conditions like this. So always, conditions like this, especially exigent circumstances like what we currently are facing, you have to obviously always have your vision that this is what we want to become, but at the same time be very very clear and very real time on the market situation, the market conditions. um, is your what is the uh, situation of your vendor? Is he able to supply the parts? Is your customer able to like for example, one of our customers last week, we were supposed to close a big order. Now the customer accountant is basically having COVID, so there's nothing much you can do on that. So it is challenging, but I would say it's an opportunity also by its own, because it helps you think a little out of the box. So primarily, we were in telematics, automobiles, and automobiles, defense, and aerospace. That's like. But during COVID, we adapted one of our products for the healthcare sector. Gave thermal scanning solutions, automatic thermal scanning solutions. We sold quite a few of these. So it gives you the opportunity to think out of the box. It gives you the opportunity to work on new things, on new areas that you might have not even thought of before. But at the same time, it does also give a little bit of a additional stress, because some of the kind of stable things that you had going in the pandemic, like suppose pre-pandemic we were selling say 1,500 units of something. Post pandemic the numbers are close to half of that. But yes, so in that sense it is challenging. But I think we were able to come up with new products, continue our finances, keep them in check, keep everything going fine. In fact, we were able to grow by close to 37% this year, as compared to last year. uh, it is quite good. So um, if if you ask my perspective, the pandemic has given a good opportunity for all of us. It's not only an entrepreneur, for all of us to reevaluate, look hard, introspect, because you have a lot of time on your hands. Introspect, see what is it you're doing, see what better you want to do, whether it might be your own life, whether it may be your own personal life, it might be your professional life. How is it you want to better that?
Yes, sir. You used this pandemic situation into an opportunity, and you grew your company. And now, for the final question, what type of advice would you like to give to young entrepreneurs, growing entrepreneurs, sir?
Yeah. So, um, you see, entrepreneurship, more than, if this is my perspective, obviously, but what I would say is that, you first, if anybody wants to be an entrepreneur, you need to start off with a good idea, not with the ambition that I want to, say, make these many lakhs or these many crores a year, or those are all things which are results of you being able to perform your towards your idea. So it needs to start off with a very clear idea that you want to do this, or you want to impact this space, you want to create these products, and it has to be something different. Obviously, run of the mill companies also are there, and they are getting funded also, that's not an issue. But I would say that it has to be something out of the box, something different, and it has to be this idea which anchors you to every decision, not the resultant of how many lakhs of order or how many crores of business I'm going to do. It's nothing like that. It is just the idea. Like, my idea was that uh, we wanted to get into the aerospace and defense segment and in India, and come up with made in India products. Because even till today, there are uh, close to only 3% of the defense sector today, in India. The aerospace and defense sector is indigenous in terms of electronics. So we saw the opportunity there. We also wanted to serve the country for better, and obviously, utilize our capabilities to do so. So that is our core, uh, idea and ideology, which we push forward with. The resultant of following that journey, following that path, is obviously financial success, and social success, and all this thing. For some people it might be that I want to get social benefit. Like, I am also working with a social impact organization, for creating softwares for helping rural India in terms of surveys, and basically impact assessment and all that. So there I want to use my abilities, the way I can. That's the way I can use my abilities to benefit my society. So that is what is driving me. Of course, the second aspect is, once we make the software and we have made the software, we have sold quite a few subscriptions, and then it gives you that financial success. That is a resultant. So that is what you have achieved. But what you want to do is very fundamental, and I think that is something that you should focus on before you start on the business. You need to have a very clear idea and very clear understanding of what is it want you to do. And once you have that clarity, then you would be able to you should be able to be quite successful.
Um, I mean, sir, I think that is a massive eye opener that you just said, where you mentioned that you should be anchored to your base idea rather than the outcome of whatever you're doing. I mean, I think that's a very great takeaway from this last question. And so we are towards the end. We have asked all that we want to know about you and your company. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your journey with us. So we cannot begin to say how much we have taken away from this or how much we have learned from you and your company, sir. Just all we can say from our side is that thank you for your time and your sharing of wisdom. You shared first and real experience that you went through for us to know about it. I mean, just thank you is all we can say. Thank you for your time, sir.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
So that's it for this episode. You can listen to other episodes on the Lizard YouTube page and the Rotrack page. Please share, like, and subscribe. Continue supporting our upcoming episodes as well. Thank you for listening. Take care and stay safe.